Hello folks, glad you can join me and the dog. I just want to give a very big warm thank you to everyone for their support and their love and joining and sharing in on this journey. Today's video we're going to learn how to evade punches, avoid punches by dipping, using the dips and leans, and by weaving. Okay, so there's head and body movement and stuff. So here I'm starting out with, I'll start like a great way. So just keep your legs shoulder width apart, facing forward, and dip. Do all kinds of dips. You're dipping at the waist here and stuff like that. And now dip, ducking, classic, or at the knees and stuff. So, and then I want you to bend at the knees and do your dippings left and right. They could also be a little bit going backwards and a little bit leaning forward as well. All of them. Everything is great. Okay? So, just showing you another side angle of this. All right? You should already be warmed up as well. And, right. And, because our dips and our leans and our weaves and any move that we do is going to involve a combination of moving at the waist and torso and things like that, and also at the knees and stuff. Here, trying to say that in an oversimplified way, you're flinching away from something is going to show you a type of evasive moving, combining some kind of dip and weave. Dipping is more natural. It's just your slants, your leans, your bends, all of that stuff, right? The weave involves a little bit more of a weaving, motion, a circular traversing across a small plane or whatever. What we're going to do here is we're going to do a jab, and then we're going to do a lean, a slant, a dip to some way. What I'm suggesting here is it's more advanced to throw a jab without much of your body moving into it, or your shoulders giving into it a little bit. You could get a whole bunch of rotation from the hips and stuff to give you your snapping power. But especially when you're learning, and of course having versions of the punch, you want a little bit of a shoulder rotation into it. So you could see, like if you were looking at my plane, shoulder plane, the level, you could see I break that plane, I break that symmetry, and the side that's throwing the jab also rotates in a little bit. And so there's no right and wrong, there's all different versions of that type of punch. So just a quick recap of the jab, right? What we're going to practice here is we're going to jab, okay, and then dip out of the way, slant out of the way, So duck, they're ducking as well to the left and right, not just ducking straight down. All right. You're doing these dips. I like to call them dipping because you're involving your legs and your knees as well to some degree. So you're doing a bit of a dipping and stuff. But I also like to call them slants. You could call them leans as well. Okay, you're leaning. But dipping is cool for me. I like the dipping. So what we're doing here is, okay, jab and then dip out of the way. We're practice both sides. The dipping is going to is going to be a combination of bending at the knees and also at the waists. Also, it could be completely lateral, left or right, or it can be some kind of combination of left and right and forward, or left and right and back and stuff. You practice these dips and you're also on your way to the crouch as well. The crouch is just doing a lot more, stuff in a dipped position and stuff, or a crouched position. So here I'm showing you a little bit of extra defense, right? So part of your dipping, so when you're dipping, and remember, we'll keep practical. The dipping is avoiding a punch. You're getting out of the way of a punch. Right? Or you're breaking up your symmetry. You're breaking up your rhythm and your pattern relative to your opponent. Okay? It's always good to have some kind of rhythm for yourself in a way. But what you're doing is you're not giving your opponent an easy read. So sometimes you're dipping, sometimes you're leaning. One way or another, you're doing some kind of movement. You're just not sitting there as a stationary target so that somebody else can sit there all day and formulate how to smash you. Okay? So when you're doing the dip, you can also have a progressive, an aggressive type of guard, or you could just keep your hands in a good position, right? Cool, right? Doing really great. Okay, so here, let's do this, watch this drill. So you're doing a jab, and then you're dipping left and right, or right and yeah, left and right. So we're in a left sparring stance, we're throwing a left jab, and we're dipping left, and then we're dipping right. Cool, right? Notice how I'm dipping at the waist, but I'm also dipping at the knees, right? And for these type of drills, I don't want you to go too crazy yet. I don't want you to go too fast yet. And we're alternating. So if we did the left jab and dipped left and right, then we're going to do the left jab and dip right and left. Remember, you want to be really comfortable with these positions so that you don't become an easy read. You don't want to always dip left and right every single time, because then that's a predictable pattern. When you're dipping, you can keep your head level if you want, or you can also move your head a little bit. And this is a good time to talk about, don't go crazy thinking that to avoid punches, you need only move your head very slightly, because that is 100% true, okay? Until it's not, okay? There is no golden rule on either side, okay? But you certainly can slip punches, okay, by moving your head just a little bit. But sometimes you're going to need to slip punches by moving your head a little bit more, or moving your head and body a little bit more. Okay, so here I'm showing you, don't be predictable. Okay, so if you're going to dip, okay, so if you're going to slip a punch, okay, and after you're done slipping a punch, you come right back up, that's predictable. So what I can do is I can throw you a fake punch, okay, and cause you to react by, okay, dipping, slipping the punch, and then wait for you to rise back up, right? So here what we're doing is I want you to do 2 dips, okay? I want you to slip the punch, okay? But after you slip the punch, I want you to do another dip so that you don't have your opponent being able to easily predict you. Okay? Not only that, not your opponent doesn't always throw one punch, right? They will throw multiple punches. So sometimes one slip, one dip is not enough. You may have to do that a couple of times and stuff. If you're going to slip a punch by moving your head very slightly, that's a much more advanced ability. Okay? So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say. It's possible, but if you're not very skilled, then you're likely to get smashed. You're going to get clipped. All right? So don't be too nervous that you're doing a lot of movement in order to avoid the punches. Just at the same time, you don't have to take my word for any of this stuff, okay? I'm proven on many different avenues that you want to explore, okay? So all you have to do is just look at all the great fighters in boxing, okay? And then also look at all the great fighters in a traditional martial art. And look at all the great fighters in MMA, and you're going to see they're doing all of these versions. Slipping punches is not just a subtle head movement, all right? Some of the greatest fighters, okay, did really extreme, massive moves, okay? Because we're not practicing and training, okay, to verse an average person, okay? That's not how you do it. And that's not how I'm going to encourage you to do it, okay? We train, okay, as if we're facing somebody formidable and if we're facing somebody who knows what they're doing. It doesn't mean they have to be a master, even though that should be what you shoot for. They know what they're doing, okay? So if you think you're just going to tilt your head ever so slightly and it's just going to completely avoid somebody's punch, you're wrong. A lot of times you're going to be wrong, and a lot of times you're still going to get smashed. Okay. So give yourself a decent dedication to the slip, right? Okay. Enough of that rant. Where are we? What are we doing? You're watching? All right. So we're still doing our drills, and here, okay, we're doing a lead punch, and then we're doing a dip or slip and stuff, and then we're going to do a ducking, which is a more traditional bending at the knees straight down. Okay, combining them so that we can do them completely dedicated. So one lead, one slant, one dip, and then one duck. Or you can do a combination. So somewhere in between you doing the dipping and coming back up or whatever, you just go back down into a ducking position. Combination. And if you keep doing that, you're going to see that you're on your way to weaving. Just trust your flinching instincts. Don't resist it, okay? If you flinch, that's going to usually be a great evasive maneuver and a getting out of the way one. All right, and now I'm trying to figure out our next drill that we're going to practice here. I don't want it to be too complicated so that we have to think a lot through it, okay? That comes a little bit later when we challenge ourselves. So we're doing a lead, we're doing a 1 and then a 1-2, okay? And then we're going to try to get out of the way. So you're going to pop your opponent, okay? And then boom, boom, with a little bit more, significance to it. And then we should expect counters and a flurry back because your opponent's like, hell no. Right? So you got to get ready to get your head out of that position. Get yourself out of that spot that you were in when you attacked. So, here I'm in a right sparring stance, or squared up. It's a right one, okay? So, I'm doing the right jab, then I'm doing the right jab and the left cross, the 1-2. Boom, boom. Then I'm getting out of the way. I'm slipping left, slipping right, and then ducking. So that's the drills here that we're doing, right? The great thing is once you get the hang of it, You could just start making up all your type of drills, and then ultimately there's also a free-form one that I definitely want you guys to practice, and that's just dipping and weaving and slipping punches. The reason I don't always say slip so easy is because slip could be like a lot more general. All right, if you weaved, you slip the punch. Okay, slipping a punch is just, but yeah, also not so general. Slipping the punch and definitely dipping out of the way of a punch is slipping a punch as well. But yeah. But you could slip a punch through movement more than you can. You see here, you notice how we didn't do a lot of movement yet, and that's because we're going to save the movement a little bit. Is more traditional for weaving. When you're maintaining your position and you're just using your leanings and your torso and your and head movements and stuff like that, you slip the punch a bit more. But you could be general, and you could slip a punch in so many ways. You know, getting out of the way of a punch is kind of like you slipped it. Okay, so I'm doing a free form here, and I want you guys to practice your free form and stuff. We haven't gotten to the weave yet. You'll know when we get to the weave, especially because I'll tell you when we get to the weave. But I want you to do a free form. So it's very similar to shadow boxing, and you should do this all the time. And it's the same thing as dancing, and they share, they share a reality and a love for each other and stuff, because you want to have that flow, you want to have that rhythm, you want to have that intimacy with your body movement and your positions and stuff. So here I'm giving you an example of much more slight. Okay, it may look like a lot, but it's not. It's just slight head movement. All right, here's some examples of it. But don't be stupid about it. Don't think that you're just going to move like a couple of centimeters, an inch, and you slip the punch and stuff. Okay, so you might combine a little bit of movement with a little bit of tilting, with a little bit of bending at your knees, with a little bit of movement. Okay, with a little shuffle of your position as well. And of course, like we did earlier, or like we began this video, okay, sometimes you slip a punch, not by changing your stance much or at all, but by moving your head or upper body. And sometimes you don't have to move your head at all, and you're just slipping a punch by doing a small side step, a small adjustment or changing direction of your stance. All right, so we're almost to a close here at this first little part, which was the slipping and the dipping. I like to say dipping, as you can see, because they do a lot of dipping. And here you're seeing you're beginning. This will be your beginning to learning the shoulder roll and stuff, which definitely involves some dipping and some leaning and stuff. Dipping is cool to use because it doesn't imply that I actually evaded a punch yet. It just applies body movement, right? Slipping means you slipped what? So slipping maybe implies a little bit more like a punch was thrown.